I went on to work for the next 20 some years, and I never forgot my dream of teaching. Now, with that said, my educational endeavors up until that point included nothing more really than on-the-job training. I was in a Marine Corps vocational rehab kind of program called SMOCTA, and they trained Marriott and these other corporations to give me a job and put me in a managerial responsibility. But I never went to school. But by the time I was in my 40s, it was time for me to go back to school, and it was time for me to begin the road to achieving my dream of not only becoming a teacher, but a special education teacher. I had understood before I started the special education program at the university I went to that there would be a math class or two. And my voc rehab counselor from the Veterans Administration said that he could get me a tutor because I wouldn't have taken the program if I had to be alone and try to struggle through math classes. The reason is, when I was in those special education classes in those days when my people my own age group that weren't in special education were learning algebra and those sorts of things, we were still in long division. So by the time I got out of special education and I went to the 9th grade and they stuck me in what was called in those days a pre-algebra class, I had no idea what I was looking at. I did not understand math. I was not necessarily even exposed to it, advanced math anyway, until I was 15 years old. So I struggled through that. I graduated high school. I went to the United States Marine Corps, but math was a problem. So I understood that I would not complete my educational goals if math was a part of the equation and I didn't have assistance. I had a few tutors before I came to Student Nest. And unfortunately, when you get those tutors, the VA paid for the tutors. And unfortunately, those tutors that I had anyway thought the idea was to do the math for you. And I had those tutors, and I didn't necessarily want to master algebra and geometry and those sorts of things, but I needed to be competent enough to go sit and take a test. And as you know, when people do the work for you, or a lot of tutors do the work for you, you never learn those concepts. Student Nest was not one of those services that was going to do the math for you. Now, my particular tutor with Student Nest showed me the logic of the problem, or more importantly, why math was important, what it meant for me, and then how I could get it done. And that was huge for me because before, to me, math was like pulling teeth sort of thing. It was like something you never wanted to do but knew you had to do. But when I started with Student Nest and my particular tutor, Dr. Brad Huff, he did problems for me to begin with, but he was doing them to model how to do them. So Dr. Huff would do the problems. He'd do 6 problems, and then he'd be like, okay, tell me what I just did. So it was one of those experiences that you understood at that moment that you had to learn the basics of math, and Student Nest gave me the foundation as an adult learner to be able not only to learn how to do algebra, but how to do geometry as well. And I'm not saying that I'm a mathematical master, but I am saying is that I passed all 5 of my college math classes because Student Nest tutored me and brought me to a place and walked me step by step through the process where I was competent enough to learn just the basic concepts and to go in and pass these classes. The executive team at Student Nest and my experience with them was awesome. And throughout the process, they communicated with me, and it's pretty, you can have tutoring companies, and what I really value is that I got an email from the company owner. From the company owner, you get emails and they loop in, and you see the interaction between them and the tutors, and it's not some stuff that happens in the back room, but you are actually involved in the communications process. You are actually involved with not only setting goals, but with the direction that your tutoring has to take. Student Nest is not a one-size-fits-all tutoring company. They will tailor a solution specific to your need, whether you are a high schooler with learning challenges, or whether you are an old man like me who never opened an algebra book or a geometry book. They will tailor it to you. Specifically for you adult learners, I would encourage you to go and receive services from Student Nest, because they understand where you are. They understand that the years have passed, and they will tailor a solution specifically for you to get you where you need to go with your educational goals. My experience with my tutor, I believe, was just awesome is a word. And I'm not just on here saying this. I'm not a paid spokesperson. I actually offered to do this for Student Nest because I was just so blown away with where I was versus where they walked me to, literally grabbed me by the hand and walked me to the place that I needed to be in order to receive my college degree, my Bachelor of Science in Special Education. And my tutor, Dr. Brad Huff, he was personable. He worked around my schedule. He was specific. He designed learning solutions specific to who I was, not who he thought I should be. And that's what I want to certainly encourage anyone that comes to Student Nest, is to understand it's not about where Student Nest thinks you are. They will discover where you are, they will meet you where you are, and they will walk you forward from there. And for adult learners, that is huge. There's one word to describe the virtual training experience that I had with Student Nest, and that was flawless. And they were able to transition me, obviously, from the learning tools that I was working with, obviously, to a virtual tutoring environment, because before I was just like really on the phone with somebody, but Student Nest brought in the technology that it was going to take for me to actually have the most personal virtual experience I could have with my tutor. And when you are learning math literally for the first time, as I was as an adult learner and somebody that had been denied that opportunity in the past, it is important to establish rapport. And the virtual experience with Student Nest allowed me to establish rapport with my tutor, and for me to build trust with them and be able to follow them through this process of learning math for the first time. So the virtual experience for me was really a game changer. I would recommend Student Nest to adult learners without hesitation. After all that I have said here today, the question that you should be wrestling with, especially for those that need a shot in the arm with respect to assistance with passing math classes and learning basic advanced math concepts, isn't why would you use Student Nest? A better question is, why wouldn't you use Student Nest?